If I could move to staff, which may well be a more problematic issue for you, right? Because is it not so that we are predominantly white-staffed university at the moment?
Yeah, it is.
Are you going to give me the figures there too?
I looked those up.
You've got them. Come on, then.
So currently of our academic staff, only 25% of the staff is black, meaning African, Indian or coloured.
Yeah.
3/4 are white.
And that's unsustainable in the long run.
It's unsustainable in the long run, yeah. Well, that's right. Again, I think that the one of the things that's happened, which has made it hard, when one looks at, so that we've got to fix that, and we're disappointed that we haven't made faster progress, and I'll talk about what we try to do and what else we can do. But I do still want to put that in one context, which is that our academic staff has grown as well. And if we just take the lecturer level, for example, the number of lecturers at UCT that over the 5 years, 2008 to 2012, the number of lecturers increased by 20%. Now, if we would have kept the same racial profile of lecturers, we would have needed black lecturers to increase by 20%. That would have been a phenomenal growth in that period of time. In fact, black lecturers increased by 17%. White lecturers also increased by 17%. And the gap was made up by lecturers from the international community, which increased by about 41%. Of course, they start off with a smaller base, so that's why that number is higher. But the point is that we are desperately looking for and trying to recruit South African lecturers and international lecturers, and the actual growth rate is significant. In associate professors, it's even more dramatic. In the associate professor group, the total number grew by 28%. Black associate professors grew by 71% over that period. White associate professors grew by 21%. And as I say, the total was 28%. But the change in the proportion, because it's in a period of growth, went from 31 to 33. So just a marginal increase in.
But what's our plan going forward?
But it's irreversible, and I think that.
What's irreversible?
This trend. So incrementally, progressively, we are becoming a more and more black university.
But what's the game plan to ensure that we? I mean, there've been a series of.
The game plan is to accelerate people's careers, because remember that to become a professor is roughly you need roughly about 20 years after getting your PhD. The typical career path is PhD 2 or 3 years or 5 years postdoc, junior lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor. Each of them is approximately 4 to 5 years to become a professor. So the pool of people that we're recruiting as professors are the people who got their PhDs in 1993.
Yeah.
So when you think about what is this pool and how big is it and can we rapidly increase it?
But I'm not so worried about the professors. I mean, I accept that. I mean, often I think in this country we're in this huge rush, and we should be sensible here.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about is, are we getting people coming in, assistant lecturers and lecturers,
yes,
people with postdocs? Are we encouraging people? Are we encouraging our black graduates? Are we pushing them through to ensuring that the really good ones do PhDs, that they're encouraged to remain within the... in Brazil, there are serious programs where they, in fact, either get them to do PhDs within the universities, or alternatively, when there's weaknesses and they send them overseas with bursaries and they bring them back. Are we doing the same thing? Because I've got a lot of complaints of questions about that, people leaving, difficulties about programs with postdoc programs. There are a series of questions I can put to you, but in general, the thrust is: are we doing enough? Or to put it bluntly, we aren't doing enough.
Well, yeah. No, I think we have to find money and do more. But what we are doing is, firstly, at the recruitment stage, I think there are two parts you focus on. One is the sort of pipeline, and how do we strengthen that pipeline? And indeed, at the level of doctoral students and postdocs, there's a strong emphasis on recruiting black students into doctoral programs and into postdoctoral programs. But we can't find enough. And I think that it's not yet, black professionals, black graduates are in hot demand in the economy, and a career in academia is not yet
But we've got to
glamorous.
do something about that. But frankly, my own view, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that it's more, our biggest chance of totally transforming our staff is there, rather than sort of being like Spanish football managers who pay millions of pounds for the odd superstar.
It is, and that's where we're investing. But what we also then do is we try to accelerate the career. Instead of having it take 20 years, what we're doing is investing in, we have a program called the Emerging Researchers Program, for example, which funds people to buy out their teaching time. Instead of waiting 6 years for your sabbatical when you can have a substantial year of research, after 3 years, funds are available to take a semester off to do research. They form support groups, writing groups, retreats, a whole conscious intervention to accelerate that career path, attending conferences and international conferences without necessarily having to present papers, which is not the usual policy, as ways of specifically developing new emerging researchers and staff.
So before I turn to the audience again, can I ask you, not that I'm going to have the privilege, presumably, of interviewing in 5 years' time, I don't know, but in 5 years' time, when you've completed your second term, what would you, as the Vice-Chancellor of the University, expect to see in relation to the staff diversity complement? How much better are we going to be in 5 years' time? If I have to interview another Vice-Chancellor, am I going to say, he's going to say, well, we're up to 28%, but the figures have got bigger and so on and so forth? Or are we actually going to see some fairly dramatic changes?
No, I don't think they'll be dramatic. This we'll have to try to calculate more carefully, but we submit to the Department of Labour an employment equity plan.
Right.
And the employment equity plan we submitted 5 years ago for this point in time would require us to have 10% more than we are. So instead of being 25%, we thought we would be 35%. I think that as we go through it again, that we won't be at 35% in 5 years' time. I think that would be an unrealistic
Can
target.
we get close to 35% if we really make an effort?
I think
is it a big, surely it's got to be one of our central priorities?
I think it is, but if we continue to grow, if we didn't grow, we could do that.
Oh, okay.
But I think we will grow.
All right.
And I think that amongst academics, and I think my bid would be for 30.